Hello everyone, Books with Banks back again with another video, and back today again with more Kharkanas content. Please leave a like and subscribe and share if you haven't already. Thank you so much to everyone who watches my videos, and also to those of you who always leave the most insightful comments and responses. Today, as the title suggests, we're talking about one character from Steven Erikson's Kharkanas prequel trilogy. A planned trilogy with only 2 books out so far, but for those of you not too familiar with Erikson, Esselmont, and their various Malazan series, basically, in short, this is Erikson's crack at a prequel set millennia in the past before the events of his more popular Malazan Book of the Fallen series. And today I wanted to do a bit of a deeper dive into one of the antagonist characters Erikson introduces in these prequels. This is a woman named Syntara. We will be looking specifically at a few of her best, quote-unquote best, scenes and moments from Book 1, this book right here, Forge of Darkness. So I will be spoiling a few things about her character specifically, and maybe vaguely about the course of the narrative in this book and what the Thais Civil War is shaping up to look like by the end of this one. But I'll try my best to avoid spoiling anything in this book too far removed from her character, and I want to make sure also that I'm not spoiling anything she or anyone else does in the second book, Fall of Light. Okay, so first things first, who is Syntara? To understand her, I should explain that Mother Dark is the queen, the leader, the ruler of not only the Thais people living in the city of Kharkanas, but also the surrounding noble states and territories in the realm of Kuralt Galain. Mother Dark is both a political and religious figure, and so she has a group of women who are her priestesses, who worship and support her. These priestesses have been led by a woman named Emerald Lanier, Emerald Lanier for a long time, and Lanier, she holds the title of High Priestess, and recently a second priestess was given the same title of High Priestess. So we basically have a senior High Priestess with Emerald, and a newer, younger, junior High Priestess with the character I want to focus on today, the woman named Syntara. I would like to briefly examine 3 scenes that I think can tell us a lot about what Erikson is trying to explore with the Syntara character, and hopefully by the end of this video, even if you've read these books and you don't personally have a strong feeling about her, hopefully my analysis might be able to help you all at least see why I find her and why I find what Erikson's doing with her so fascinating. So first I would like to look at her introduction. And her introduction scene, as well as the second scene we'll look at, are all importantly, I think, told from the point of view of other characters around her. The third scene we'll look at will finally be from her perspective. I have been annotating this mass market paperback version of Forge of Darkness, so this will be like the page numbers that I'm referring to, that I'm using when I quote passages further down. So, setting the first scene. We'll be starting from pages 295 to 299, so already a little bit of a ways into the book. And I'll only read or quote a few direct quotes from this scene, 295 to 299, and basically what's going on is we find our senior High Priestess in a large chamber with other priestesses writhing around kind of in sexual, pleasurable kind of worship. Emerald Lanier herself isn't really participating. She is instead staring at her own reflection in a mirror. And then a mysterious individual, presumably an Azathanai, basically a demigod, for those of you not as familiar with these books. This woman, Azathanai woman, named Tris, is coming to the city of Kharkanas to speak with Mother Dark, and all sorts of strange magical things are going to happen when Tris arrives. But we're not too worried about that right now. What we need to focus on now is that we're introduced to the Syntara character who's come to inform Emerald that Tris is on her way and they need to go speak with Mother Dark. We're introduced to Syntara through Emerald's eyes, and their first exchange just after Emerald has thought to herself, "Mirrors, I fear, are an invitation to suicide." And Syntara arrives and calls out, "Sister Emerald." Emerald looks for the reflection of the newly arrived Syntara in the mirror she's been looking at, and she thinks to herself, this is a longer quote, "At the familiar voice, she felt something quill inside her, but the blurry reflection showed no sign of that, and Emerald felt a flash of unreasoning jealousy. Yet she held that placid gaze and did not turn at the call. Sister Syntara, is it time?" High Priestess Syntara's arrival in the chamber had, Emerald realized, announced itself a few moments earlier in the sudden hush among the priestesses. Such was the force of the young woman's power, a thing of polished gold and dripping blood. Emerald could see her now, almost formless in the mirror, neither beautiful nor imposing. She suppressed an urge to reach up and wipe through the shape, smearing it from existence. There was no need for two high priestesses. End quote. That's on page 296 in the mass market. So, I think introducing Syntara as a younger, possibly more active, ambitious, powerful counterpart to the older Emerald Lanier, who is a more patient and wise woman. I think this is a great way for Erikson to already give us a pretty good sense of the type of woman Syntara is. Also, this whole introduction is all about appearances and how beautiful Syntara is. If Emerald likes how formless Syntara is in the mirror and how she's neither beautiful nor imposing, Erikson has just basically told us that Syntara is, in truth, both beautiful and imposing, but not her reflection. And Emerald wishes this wasn't so. Erikson also uses this introduction to highlight the main contradiction within Syntara's character, contradiction that becomes clearer and clearer as the book goes along. And Erikson does this when Emerald notes that the power of the young woman and how that power is a thing of polished gold and dripping blood. So the first part of the description suggests something beautiful, pure, and positive. The latter part suggests something violent, destructive, and cruel. And all throughout this book and the next two scenes I want to look at, Syntara is growing more and more aware of the first positive description of herself, and more forgetful and ignorant of the second, more dangerous description of herself. And Syntara, she is about to receive a gift that I think Erikson makes pretty clear is supposed to be a sort of branding that highlights more the dripping blood, more negative aspects of Syntara's character. But Syntara, with the help of other kind of detestable characters, she'll grow to be so self-righteous and ignorant that by the end of the book she can't even realize the contradictions and ironies and how she talks about her purity and her gift when really that gift was meant to expose her flaws. But we'll get there in later scenes. So the second scene I want to talk about, this is shortly after our introduction, and Therese, that is Athonite demigod character, she's arrived and she has gifted most of the people loyal to Mother Dark with dark skin, night vision, and the features that us Malazan fans might associate with the Teist Andi sub-race. Therese has, however, also given Syntara a gift, a bit of a different gift. She's given her this glowing white radiant skin, presumably to set her apart as possibly disloyal, but definitely as someone who won't so easily follow Mother Dark. And remember, Erikson is definitely presenting Syntara as an antagonist to us, contrasting Syntara now with how much we actually like the characters who do support Mother Dark. And Erikson, and through sort of Triss, has drawn a clear line with their physical appearances. So to continue to convince us that Syntara might not be the most kind, rational, or morally pure individual, the second scene is with her and Hun Ral. Now, Ral is basically the manipulative politician angling to get the war hero Vatha Urasander married to Mother Dark and on the throne. This will help Hun Ral for a few selfish reasons. And if Ral needs to start pogroms against the deniers and poorer classes of people out in the woods, and if he needs to accidentally stir up a civil war to get his way, Ral doesn't much care if those things need to happen. Now, Hun Ral might deserve a bit more of a nuanced analysis video on his own than kind of that bare-bones summary that I just gave him. But for now, for the Syntara character, I think that's all we really need to know, just for now. especially because this is how Syntara likely views him, she views him exactly as that kind of villain that I just painted, but also as a drunkard. So Syntara runs to Hunral because he's working with Vesta Urosander, and she feels like the Azathanite curse, which she'll come to think more and more of as a gift, this curse on her appearance is basically Mother Dark rejecting her, and if a civil war does break out, Syntara realizes she needs to move quickly to ally herself to the forces that would most likely oppose Mother Dark's, those being Urosander's forces, with Rao the real puppet master here. So the second scene is basically our two biggest antagonists of the story so far meeting up. And the scene goes from page 332 to 336. And the beginning of this, on 332, goes like this, a longer quote. Half drunk, Hunral stared at the white-skinned woman who had come stumbling into his room. He saw the fear and fury warring in her eyes, but it was the alabaster bleaching of her visage that held him enthralled. Not even Selchus Rowan possessed such purity. He struggled to speak. High Priestess, what has become of you? You are glamored. What new gift of sorcery has Mother Dark discovered? End quote. So, Hunral, he's already recognizing that Syntara is furious at someone and fearful about what her new transformation means. But even half drunk, Hunral kind of has the wherewithal to get to work pretty quickly in his efforts to flatter her and kind of give a positive spin on this. He also shallowly associates her lighter skin with purity and then says to her that he thinks of her new appearance as a gift. Moving on, Syntara responds, I am cast out, you fool, banished from night. This was not her doing. The Azathanite said she could see into my soul. She said terrible things. Syntara turned away, and he could see how she trembled. She reached out to me. There was light, blinding light. He forced himself from his chair. The room tilted slightly, and then righted itself. He drew a deep, steadying breath, and then moved close to her. High Priestess, I will tell you what I see when I now look upon you. Don't, she says. And he continues, I see a woman reborn, Syntara. You among all women do not belong in darkness. Again, that's page 332. So, there you have it, kind of their meeting scene. Again, that second part of the quote, more flattery from Ral, and the scene goes on for about 3 more pages. The both of them actually being pretty outwardly argumentative and difficult with each other, constantly jabbing on one another with harsh words and critiques. But ultimately, I think the scene and their new alliance that they're forming here, and the fact that Hunral will agree to take her to Urosander. This is all decided, I think, after this initial exchange that I just quoted. I believe Ral knows she's afraid, and he knows he holds the power to kind of offer her sanctuary and allay a lot of those fears. But he also knows that flattery is going to do wonders here. And I think maybe he kind of sees a sort of symbol that the Urosander might be able to use to set him apart from Mother Dark. Maybe not set him apart from Mother Dark strictly, but set him apart from Mother Dark's consort, Kharkanas. Again, we don't need to get too much into some of those other storylines going on. Anyway, as I mentioned above, Emerald Lanier and the Mirror introduce this idea of kind of self-awareness, looking inwards, real honest reflection, versus the more shallow, straightforward beauty of a person when you're just looking at them. And in many ways, even outside of what Syntara is going through, I think Trish showing up to town is basically Erikson via Blind Glan, via Triss being very explicit and clear about the symbolism at work here. In any story, I think that pits light against dark, these two very real things have numerous connotative meanings and uses in kind of a more figurative sense and more symbolic sense. And while Syntara feels at first very hurt, called out, and furious about the literalization of this light versus dark dynamic, Hunral is very quick to put a positive spin on it, using all of the more wonderful associations with light in opposition to the more negative things associated with dark. In other words, Syntara feels like, at first, maybe she's had a spotlight pointed at her that reveals how shallow, selfish, and separate she is compared to everyone else in Mother Dark's court. whereas Ral is trying to say that same spotlight only points out how much more beautiful and more important she is than all the rest. She describes light negatively as something blinding and terrifying, but he kind of pushes back against that, saying that she doesn't belong in darkness, as if darkness obscures and hides the virtues of Syntara from the rest of the world. And Ral also says she is reborn, which I think is typically a more positive idea. So Hunral and Syntara establish an alliance, all the while Syntara is growing more and more confident in her glowing, radiant skin, and more confident that she needs to work with Ral, manipulating warfare in the countryside to the benefit of trying to get Urisander and Mother Dark married. So she was afraid of her new appearance at first, and now she's growing more and more confident in it, and how it can be spun into a good and flattering thing. Furthermore, she thinks her light and her beauty can be a good thing for all of Kharkanas. In my opinion, Hunral has done an excellent job of further obscuring Syntara's own kind of self-perception, and he's helped her grow more arrogant, more empowered by every moment that they spend together. Now, after the scene, we don't see Syntara for a while. Much later, she reappears after having made it to Nerit Sor, which is Bather Urisander's home, his seat, kind of where he's gathering his power. And she's just kind of sitting in, I believe she's in a vault, and she's thinking to herself about what her place will be in the impending possible civil war conflict. And it seems now she's totally embraced all of the good virtues of light, and how she can be the arbiter of that goodness, and of that goodness. She's embracing all of the positives of her new character without looking any deeper to criticize the much more negative aspects of her new transformed character. I think it's really important in a book in which Erikson stresses how introspective and self-aware so many of the other characters are. I think it's really important to have a character like Syntara, who is someone blinded to all of the negative aspects of herself. Triss wanted to shed light on those aspects, but someone like Syntara is so self-concerned and kind of self-absorbed that she was already so easily swayed into only thinking of herself as a righteous and virtuous person, no matter how painful the truth of her actions might be. If the reflection is obscured enough to only show the positive things, Syntara is perfectly happy with that kind of obscured reflection, that obscured self-image. So, what passages should I point to near the end of the book to help highlight how far she's come, developing in this more arrogant direction? Well, here's a great quote from page 695. Weakness and fear had driven her from Kharkanas, and in the time since she had, on occasion, amused herself in imagining a triumphant return, with light scouring the city like a purging fire. Wretched river gods would wither before her, Mother Dark would shrink back, all her secrets revealed, every flaw exposed. Darkness, after all, was a place in which to hide. Then, further down on the same page, she thinks to herself, the Azathanai had bequeathed Syntara a gift. Its power was growing inside her, like a man's seed in the womb. She felt full of blood, heavy in the breast and swollen between her lips, yet no weariness took her. She found little need for sleep, and her mind felt sated, immune to the countless risks surrounding her. Again, that's page 695. So, we see here that she's totally rejected all of the negative aspects of her transformation, and ironically, while she acknowledges that Triss has given her a gift, she hopes to turn that around on Mother Dark and the city of Kharkanas itself, revealing secrets, exposing flaws, getting rid of all the hiding places. I think this is a brilliant kind of thing Erikson's done here, because surely the reason Triss gave this gift to Syntara was to expose all the secrets and flaws of Syntara, and to make it impossible for Syntara to hide. But with Syntara's kind of warped sense of self, this gift has only made her, in her mind, a better person, and given her the power to now turn the same gift around and use that against all of Kharkanas, when originally it was just Triss trying to expose Syntara. It's kind of an ironic sort of revenge, and I'm not sure Syntara is fully aware of this. I don't think she realizes that she's doing this. She's basically saying, oh, you all want to criticize and expose me? Well, I'm perfect, so whatever you say is going to bounce off me and stick to all of you, right? I'm rubber, you're glue, that kind of thing. So these thoughts of hers, I find so captivating, and I can only imagine it's such a fun exercise, Erikson having to imagine how someone like Syntara could possibly spin her situation and how she's sort of been branded to make herself and Honrail out to be the protagonists. While Erikson and Blind Galan know the whole time that Syntara's lack of self-awareness and her lack of concern for how destructive she can be now with this great kind of symbolic power she possesses, it's baffling to all of us how blind she can be. But then it's sort of poetic that the brightest light, the kind of shining star, is also the most blind to who she actually is compared to all the other characters in the book. And she's also blind to the actual terrible part she'll have to play in the coming civil wars. All that said, though, I think on the whole just a brilliant character, and she doesn't get a ton of page time, so I wanted to make sure I made a special video for her and how the whole kind of light versus dark symbolism of this book I think is really channeled through and kind of highlighted by her and her scenes. I cannot wait to see what Erikson continues to do with the character of Syntara and characters like her, and with the kind of broad symbolism of this light versus dark idea in the final book in the trilogy when that comes out. If anyone watching this video to this point is still a bit hesitant about giving these books a try, I hope maybe my character analysis here has helped motivate you a little bit to pick these up. This is just one character with relatively few scenes in these books, and you could see kind of how rich these scenes were and how much they gave me to talk about. But yeah, the whole prequel series is, so far at least, it's so full of rich and other characters with numerous wonderful scenes, many of which get a ton more page time, and all of which channel various kind of themes, and they all kind of allow Erikson to really go deeper, I think, into exploring a lot of the different themes that he's weaving together. And I do think that because of the level of introspection he allows these characters to have, and because of the kind of meta-narrator Blind Galan is, I think he's allowed to explore a little deeper and go a little further into his exploration of these themes in the Kharkanas books than he was in his main Molassen Book of the Fallen series. Anyway, I think that should do it for today's video, and thank you all so much for watching, and for all of you Kharkanas fans out there, I'd love to hear your feedback on this video and what other characters or maybe specific scenes you might like me to take a closer look at in my next Kharkanas videos. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.